Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the workshop session of the Jacksonville City Council. And at this time, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the workshop session of the Jacksonville City Council. So, Darcella, would you please? And at this time, step to the. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the workshop session of the Jacksonville City Council. So, Darcella, would you please? And at this time. To the, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the workshop session of the Jacksonville City Council. So, Darcella, would you, and at this time, to the, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the workshop session of the Jacksonville City Council. So, Darcella, would you, and at this time, to the, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the workshop session of the Jacksonville City Council. So, Darcella, would you, and at this time, to the, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the workshop session of the
and that I will
Jacksonville City
faithfully
Council.
discharge the duties and do solemnly swear to the United States that I will
Good
stay
evening, everybody, and
Washington,
welcome to
Jacksonville,
the
Illinois,
workshop
to the best of
session
my
of the
ability, and that I will
Jacksonville City
faithfully
Council.
discharge the duties and do solemnly swear to the United States that I will
Good
stay
evening, everybody, and
Washington,
welcome to the
Jacksonville, Illinois,
workshop
to the best
session
of my
of the
ability, and that I will
Jacksonville City
faithfully
Council.
discharge the duties and do solemnly swear to the United States that I will
Good
stay
evening, everybody, and
Washington,
welcome to the
Jacksonville, Illinois,
workshop
to the best
session
of my
of the
ability, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties and do solemnly swear to the United States.
And I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Bartlett,
Here.
Cook,
Here.
Hannett,
Here.
O'Donnell,
Here.
Ruben DeSellis,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Speed,
Here.
Wonkel,
Here.
Watts,
Here.
Williams,
Here.
Mayor Ezra,
Here.
City Attorney Beard.
Here.
Thank you, and welcome to the council, Darcella. And to all the new aldermen, welcome to the city council. Look forward to working with you, and we're going to thrust you in really quick as far as something that we've discussed over the months, and it's been near and dear to Alderman Large Oldnettle's quest of seeing something done. This project started years and years ago. There was a lot of talk of maybe having more of a recreational slant to it, of the town brook. That was going to be ultimately way too expensive for the city to handle. However, we know that the town brook is essential to, you don't really know exactly until you're, when you learn about it, how important the town brook is to our city as far as moving water through our town. So we went a little bit different direction with the help of our consultant, Jeff Torselli, and was able to grab a survey or a study with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources a few years ago. And they came, this usually would cost the city about $70 to $100,000 study if we spent our money on that. However, we were able to get the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, who kind of oversees things, to do the study on their dime, which was very important. It was really good that we were able to accomplish that. Fast forward, now we're here. DNR a few months back gave a report, their findings. They gave us some options on that, and that's what Jamie Hedden tonight with Benton Associates will talk about. They gave us some options on remediation of the town brook and how we can make it work better, where we move more water through, and that would alleviate a lot of the problems and stress that I know that impacted all of us back in 2011. It would help with that, but that flood was, well, don't even get me started on that one. That anniversary's coming up, the 10-year anniversary's coming up in June, and I might be gone that day. But anyway, we're happy to have Jamie, and Jamie, you can kind of fill in the gaps, or Lori if you want to, but we're at this stage where Jamie's going to kind of talk about the options, revisit it with the new council, and then we'll do formal action at the next meeting. However, as I will call DNR tomorrow, and hopefully consensus is we move forward, and it's remediation that takes a lot of burden off the taxpayers, because this is remediation that DNR will do, and it's about a $2 million, well, he'll explain, but it could be a $3 million project, which we've obtained without having to spend city dollars on it. So that's a huge effort, and I thank you for all your help with this, Jamie. You've been very influential.
Sure. Any comments, Alderman Large-Oldnell, before we begin?
No, I'm just super excited that
Okay.
we're at this point and we get to present it to the council. So thanks again.
Yeah. So my role and Benton and Associates' role typically for the new alderman is usually utility engineer, general engineering, things like that. In this case, we're serving more as kind of a QA/QC. There was a presentation by DNR, as the mayor referenced, probably 4 or 5 months ago at this point, a while back. I would say a very detailed presentation. They did a good job of laying out all the hard work that the mayor referenced there too, about $70,000 to $100,000 probably worth of study that they did, all with their forces and no cost to the city. So it was a great first step to take a look at this. So I've tried to sort of condense that presentation into some digestible pieces that we can, as a council, move forward with. So I've taken their report that they finished with. They got it to you in March 2021. I've condensed that down to a 3 or 4 page summary for you. And I wanted to go through some of the technical details of that without getting too far into it. And then if anybody has any questions, we can answer those and maybe what the next steps are going down the road there. So page numbers are located on the bottom right-hand side of your page. We'll just go to page 1. The purpose of the study has already been discussed a little bit. Just try to reduce the flooding in the area of the town brook. There's a 100-year floodplain through most of that area, and there's a lot of properties that are affected by that currently. So they did a survey through the town brook area, through Movestar Creek area of all the watersheds, got a lot of good information, and really did a very detailed job with that. And the results of their study showed that some of the main problems are the tailwater from Movestar Creek has a hard time letting water from Town Brook down the creek and then on north down to the river. Also though, and really more importantly, the culverts that are beneath the existing railroad east of Hardin and then the river that's even east of that are currently restrictive. So right now it's essentially the hole is too small, the water can't get out fast enough, therefore the water backs up and floods the area of Town Brook. So in that 100-year floodplain, there's about 99% structures in there, but what's interesting is the primary area, 99% of those are between Diamond and Hardin, where most of those have the most impact. So if we go to page 2 of your handout, they presented this in the presentation earlier. It was kind of hard to digest all this at once, but they looked at the different alternatives to provide the solution to the flooding, and the first 3, alternative 1, 2, and 3, all sort of work on getting the water underneath the railroad faster and allow the water to get out. 1 and 2 are just doing individual culverts at each railroad. Alternative 3 combines those two, where they would be replacing culverts at both railroads and adding new. Alternative 4, 5, and 6 examine looking at some watershed storage, where they would take the storm water, store it temporarily, and let it out downstream at a slower rate so as not to flood the properties in the floodplain. Then alternative 8, 9, and 10 more focused on saying, well, if certain properties are going to flood, we'll just buy those out and those won't be useful. That's probably not alternatives that are typically used, but sometimes it is. So in the end, IDNR recommends alternative 3, which is to add in 2 culverts, 2 10-foot culverts beneath each railroad track. And if you want to go to page 3 of 4, there's a visual on what that might look like. So each railroad would have culverts beneath it that would allow the water to get out a lot faster. We did have an opportunity to ask them about the modeling efforts, and maybe if water gets out faster, will that have a negative effect downstream? So they actually did some extra modeling for you at different rain scenarios and proved to us that no, it's not going to have a negative effect downstream. It's just going to help the Town Brook area to the tune of maybe reducing floodwaters up to about 5 feet in the 100-year storm. If you go to page 4 of your handouts, should this project go forward with alternative 3, which seems like the best option at this point, as I mentioned before, the floodwaters are reduced almost 5 feet in some areas, which is a very large benefit. But also, there's 73 structures that are going to be removed from the 100-year floodplain, which is a large benefit to those folks as well in terms of flood insurance, but just also the possibility of property damage. But as far as future investment in apartments and building in this area, that really opens that up for a lot more chances for people to invest in that area. It also, though, helps to protect city roads and bridges. Those are things that weren't necessarily identified as part of the cost structure, but those things are negatively affected when, like, a 2011 flood comes, for sure. So the total project cost that they identified for alternative 3 is just under $2.8 million. If we were to bid that today, I would say that's probably low. Material costs right now are difficult, to say the least. We're not talking about building it tomorrow, though, thankfully, in this case. So they're also proposing that project cost, $2.8 million or so, as the mayor mentioned, would be taken care of through DNR. There wouldn't be a cost related to that for the city. However, the city would then need to pay for any land rights or possible utility relocation. So as we sit here today, it's a little bit undefined, but only because they haven't done the final design yet. I would say that the westerly railroad track has a 42-inch gravity sanitary sewer underneath it, pretty much right where they want to put the culvert, but they can make that, we can modify around that, I think, to try to keep that cost down. So we would agree with their recommendation. Alternative 3 seems to be the one that takes care of the most properties for the lowest cost. It has the most direct benefit and probably can happen the quickest as well. So we're on board with what they're recommending at this point, and the fact that it's almost 100% grant makes it really nice. So should the council want to proceed with this alternative, there's a few steps that need to take place. One, we need to write a letter to DNR indicating the selected alternative. Once they get that, that'll generate an intergovernmental agreement that DNR will bring back to the council, and that'll spell out a few more of the details that you'll actually be able to act on at that point. I'm not sure how long that'll take to get turned around. And at that point, they start design, which is all of their forces, maybe a little bit of city here and there. But about a year design process is what they've indicated, and about a year construction period. That would be the fastest, would be my guess. That's fairly quick. They are working with the railroads, so things get a little interesting sometimes. So I'd be glad to answer any questions. I kind of breezed over that fairly quickly. Any questions? Okay. I'm sorry, question? Yeah, Brian.
How many properties would possibly be taken out of the floodplain?
73?
That's a pretty big deal.
Yes. I mean, I think it was about 99 or so before, but about 73 properties would be removed from the floodplain.
And insurance?
Structures, excuse me,
Insurance
structures.
on some of those is $1,000 more per house. So you take that times the 72, and that's a pretty big deal.
And just the hesitation to be able to, want to do stuff in that area. And really, if you look at the 100-year floodplain map, it goes way south, a lot farther than what you think. Whether that's reality or not is always a question in terms of floodplain. The other thing this report's going to do for you is you're going to be able to actually petition to get the flood maps changed. So this report and that work that could be done could actually change those flood maps, which absolutely benefits all those folks. The city does have a full copy of the report. It's a lot more detailed than this, definitely, but if anybody would want a copy of that, we'd be glad to help you out with it. But other than that, thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
I just want to say, Jamie, you, the very first Town Brook cleanup we did, you were there. He had boots on the ground, actually had hip waders on. So you've really been a part of this project as long as I have been passionate about it. And I just want to thank you so much for your passion, for your interest in the Town Brook project, and in really sticking with it and helping the city move ahead. So thank you very much for all your work.
Thank you, Lori. Brian, you want to wait until the council meeting, or you want to come up now?
It's up to you.
You want to touch on some things real quick? Yeah, Brian, go ahead. If everybody doesn't know, this is Brian Nyberg. He is the Community Development Director. And Brian, you have the floor.
This isn't on the agenda, so this is just topics for discussion for maybe future agendas. The first part is just information only for those people who don't know the city of Jacksonville. We're partnering with Illinois Housing Development Authority to put together a comprehensive plan for the city moving forward for the next 10 to 20 years. We haven't had a comprehensive plan since 2002, which was a good plan. Most of the boxes were checked over the last years, but things have changed since then, and it's time to look at some different housing needs. And if you haven't seen, the first part of this is going to be a survey that we're doing, a housing needs survey or community needs assessment. And we're going to have it on the city website. We're going to have this, I think it's already on the JREDC website. It's going to be on the Chamber of Commerce website and also Convention and Visitors Bureau. But I got a couple copies here of what this will be. And it's going to be available with a QR code. And if you don't know what those QR codes are, you take your phone and switch it on to camera, and it's got these little codes here that you just hover your camera over it, and then you can do the survey right on your phone. I can show you how, Don. But these are what they're going to be. They're really easy to do, and part of this is also going to be a housing needs assessment, which what this will entail also. Which the housing needs assessment will actually be volunteers going around town, taking pictures of all the properties in town. So we're hoping that all of you will help. But we're going to the service organizations, and actually Ida is going to be here with boots on the ground and assisting us too with Megan Cuneo from Ida said that she hopes to get it done in a couple days, and I'm like, there's no way we'll get that done. There's 18,000 properties to take pictures of. But she says she seems to think that we'll do it. Basically, you take your phone, they have an app that we'll use, you take a picture of the house, and then you answer a couple questions, and you go to the next one. So it's a minute per each house, but it's going to be somewhat daunting. So I've been having some discussions with City Attorney Dan Beard and Mayor Ezzard on a couple different topics that we've been talking about, and I think they've already been discussed a couple times. I know they were at a planning commission meeting, but for future discussion, I've had a lot of inquiries into using shipping containers as storage units in residential zoning. If you know what the shipping containers are, you see them on trains, and right now you can get scratch and dent sales pretty cheap with free graffiti on it. So if you can imagine that in residential zoning and backyards, something for you guys just to think about, whether we should allow that or should we just allow it in commercial zoning. Another topic that we've been talking about are some of the narrow lots in town, and that we can't rebuild something according to the setbacks that we currently have in some of the ordinances. But there has been discussion of maybe smaller homes, not necessarily tiny homes, but smaller homes where some of the parameters or the setbacks are loosened a little bit, still put on foundations, and still have to be up to code. But some of these lots are just going to sit there until maybe a neighboring lot goes up for sale, and then you have to combine the two of them. But there are several lots. I don't think this should be a blanket policy. I think this should be something more as a case-by-case basis, depending on where it's at and who's next to it and what type of zoning is next to it. Another topic that we've been talking about are the craft grow facilities. That we don't have one, but some of the ordinance that we have right now restricts it that a craft grow facility can't be within 1,500 feet of a property pre-existing as a residential zoned purpose. I have looked into other cities and municipalities our size. I even looked at Belleville. Belleville originally had 500 feet, and they reduced it to 400 feet. So if you look at the AC Humco building out on East Morton, that would be, you couldn't do that anywhere on that property, all the way even to the east side on 104. So just something to talk about. We've been discussing it. We could really use the tax dollars from a craft grow facility and a dispensary, so every time somebody talks to me about what they can do to get a grow facility, I say, well, first off, we could use a dispensary, because the problem with the grow facilities right now are the licensing. And another topic is I'm hoping to get the city of Jacksonville under the umbrella of a land bank. A land bank is kind of new. It's been in the last 10 years. But we have the opportunity to work with several counties and municipalities to work under the umbrella of a land bank. And I can tell you a little bit what land banks are. It's kind of above my head, but I've learned a little bit more in the last several months. Land banks are governmental entities or nonprofit corporations that are focused on the conversion of vacant, abandoned, and tax delinquent properties into productive use. And if you drive around town, we have a lot of that, unfortunately. Land banks can obtain property at low or no cost through the tax foreclosure. They can hold land tax-free. They can clear title and or extinguish back taxes, lease properties for temporary uses, and negotiate sales based not only on the highest bid, but also on the outcome that most clearly aligns with the community needs. So when you see the tax sales come out and somebody from Wapakoneta, Ohio buys a piece of property for $800, $900, then they come and they finally see it. And they go, well, I don't want this piece of property. And then it sits for another year and it goes through that tax sale year after year. But a land bank actually doesn't have to go to the highest bidder. They can go pick the best fit, somebody maybe for $100, but they have a plan, they have money in the bank, they have money to do the construction, they have money to bring it back to productive use. So that's been a plan. I'm hoping that we can do that. We have an opportunity with Adams County. They received a grant from IDA for $250,000 and formed this land bank. It's kind of a win-win for us because there's already money in it. And for us to get in it is not going to be that tough. And if we want to get out of it, decide that that's not something we want to be in, we can get out of it and maybe form our own at that point. So that's one more point of discussion. And the last topic is signage for short-term rental housing, the Airbnb, VRBO, the bed and breakfasts. We're currently in the process of writing a short-term rental ordinance, basically to level the playing field for these short-term rentals in the eyes of safety, number one, because people are inviting people into their houses, and we want to make sure that they have everything's up to code, that they have smoke detectors, they have fire extinguishers, the egress is correct, exit lighting, and whatnot. But a more immediate concern right now is the signage allowed. There's one on State Street that's wanting to open and they're wanting to put a sign. The current ordinance allows signs on these houses, but only 12 inches by 12 inches. And currently you cannot put a sign in the yard of a residential zoning. So those, I don't know if that's something that we could talk about prior to the entire ordinance being written. Quincy recently wrote a short-term rental ordinance. I think that is something that we should compare what we want to do, and we can tweak it how we want it. But the signage right now, if Dan and I have been talking about it, and you have different residential zonings, and you have multiple families, so if it's, you know, we could base the size of the sign. I mean, you can't see a 12-inch by 12-inch sign from the street, depending on where you're at. I think Quincy has too big of signage, but even 3x3 or 4x4, or do we even want to allow signs in yards? There's already some of those signs in yards in town. Those would be grandfathered in because they're already there. So we kind of want to get out in front of this if we can. So those are all the topics of discussion for maybe a next agenda. Any questions before I sit down? That was a long list, sorry. All right. We'll see you
Hey,
next one.
Brian? Brian, right quick. The containers, would box trucks with the roll-up doors that they remove off of, like the U-Haul trucks, would that be part of that, or is there already an ordinance for that?
The shipping containers are, they're basically not movable.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. What I'm talking about are the, like when they remove the back of a box truck and they use that for a garage with the roll-up doors and stuff.
That would kind of be the same thing.
Could that be included in there too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right now, we allow accessory structures with roofs on them and certain square footage, and it has to be so far from the back lot. But I have had a lot of inquiries on those shipping containers as being used as the same thing.
Yeah, and well, this would be like taking part of a vehicle.
Right. And I can, it could be a decent thing. I can just see a large downside to
Yeah,
it.
can we include that in the shipping container thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Brian. City attorney's report, no report. And city clerk's report. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I want to bring something to the council's attention. A couple of years ago, the city obtained a $70,000 grant for security features within the building, bullet-resistant glass for the police department, some of the areas that we feel that need it, entrances and things like this. Due to the fact that we went through COVID in 2020, we were able to get an awful lot of the security things taken care of through the CURES program, CURES Act. But that grant still sits out there. We have currently, it's $70,000, and it's also for signage. We've got two areas in Jacksonville that do not have a welcome Jacksonville sign, so that's part of this too. So I just want to bring it to the council's attention that we've gotten some estimates on this. We're going to move forward on it. I will be getting with the mayor to talk about which direction we're wanting to go, along with the chief of police and ESDA director, Phil McCarty. And as soon as we've got that, then we'll bring that to the council as to what we're doing. But we were granted this grant 2 years ago. It expires in June. We were able to get an extension until June of next year. But I've had to do a report every single month that says 0. But it's just kind of ongoing. So hopefully we'll get things going and maybe even have all of this taken care of by the end of the year, hopefully by the end of the fall. So just wanted to bring that to your attention, that's what was going on with that grant. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee reports this evening. Want to handle public protection?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 4 items this evening. The first, discuss waiving bids and accepting proposal for the SCBA fill station for the Jacksonville Fire Department.
And
Oh.
yeah, there's Chief Sills.
Thank you, Chief. Didn't see you back there.
Like hiding in corners. Good evening, everybody, and congratulations. We're seeking approval tonight to waive bids and accept a bid from SCBAS out of Washington, Illinois, to replace our current SCBA fill station. The fill station we're currently operating was purchased in 2002, and it'll operate up to a pressure of approximately 4,500 PSI. In 2020, we received a FEMA grant in the amount of right around $187,000 to replace our SCBA's. The current SCBA's run at a pressure of 5,500 PSI, which this current containment unit or fill station cannot accompany or accomplish. We did look at retrofitting the current unit, see if we could change out the regulator on it in order to make it work. Just due to that unit not being blast rated or rated to contain the particles at that pressure, they can't retrofit that unit. The unit we're requesting is compatible with all the other equipment that we currently operate, the compressor and all that, so this would be a plug-and-play unit. The bid on that came in at $10,650.
Questions for the chief? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Item number 2, discuss juvenile justice grant in partnership with Midwest Youth.
Hello. First of all, welcome to all the new council members to the council. Again, I'm Chief Mefford. My door's always open. My emails, I try to always answer, and I always try to answer the phone. If not, I'll call you back as soon as I can. So if you have any concerns, don't hesitate to give me a call or an email or a text, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. So look forward to working with all of you. Tonight I want to discuss, and I said I would be quick, Mayor. I promise I'll try to be quick. I want to discuss a partnership that we have with locally with Midwest Youth Services. And the director from Midwest Youth, Ann Hungerford, is here tonight. We're not asking for the council to take any action tonight. I just want to bring something to their attention and make the council aware that Jacksonville has and is the only non-for-profit funded juvenile justice council within the state of Illinois. The council chairs at the state level have talked about the work we've done locally and our collaboration with social service and law enforcement. It's taken a lot of collaboration and a lot of key players to bring this together, specifically the Jacksonville Police Department and Midwest Youth Services. Actually, the National Juvenile Justice Council has asked us to come and give a presentation to the National Council on our collaboration because it's been noted as one of a kind. So Ann and I in the future are going to be presenting at the National Juvenile Justice Council on our collaboration with working with youth in our city. With that, I want to take just a second to talk about a grant that Midwest Youth Services obtained in the amount of $10,000. We are looking to further our collaboration and purchase what's called a live scan machine, and I'll briefly describe why this is important. So the reason why we've got recognition with our juvenile justice system is that when we have contact with low-level juvenile offenders or nonviolent juvenile offenders, the traditional method was to put them in handcuffs, take them to the county jail, write them a ticket, refer them to probation, call mom and dad, have them come and get them, and release them. We found that we needed to do something different in our community to try to collaborate with the social services, so we eliminated the second step in that process. We stopped taking juveniles directly to the county jail once they've been placed under arrest. We take them to the city police department. They're placed in a comfortable setting. They're debriefed by the officers. We look into if social services is a better option than taking them into the probation and putting them into an already overflowing court system. So once that collaboration has taken place, if for whatever reason the juvenile doesn't qualify or the parents aren't receptive to the service, then at that point they would be taken across the street to the county jail where their fingerprints would be taken, their photograph would be taken, and they would be released to the parents. What we're trying to do with this grant is we want to install the live scan machine and the fingerprint machine in the Jacksonville Police Department so we can take care of handling our own juvenile offenses in-house without subjecting the juveniles to a jail setting on low-level offenses where it's not necessary for them to go into an adult facility. We've reached out. There were 2 possible places that could provide this service to us. One of them is in Pennsylvania and one of them is in Illinois. Obviously, we wanted to go with the Illinois company, and it's also cheaper. And they have a service rep right here in Illinois. So with that said, where I'm going with this is that Ann has a $10,000 grant to collaborate with us to start this funding. The leftover amount would be the responsibility of the Jacksonville Police Department in the amount not to exceed $20,000, meaning that my part would be between $8,000 and $10,000. We estimate the cost the other day to be around $18,000 to finish the project, $10,000 from Midwest Youth Grant and $8,000 from us. So the action I'm going to propose, but not asking for a vote, that would come in the next council meeting as a resolution authorizing our partnership with Midwest Youth to move forward with this project. And the reason why I'm here tonight to get this rolling is Ann has until the end of June to spend her money. Everything when COVID got over, things started speeding up and we had to get projects done. So you might ask, where am I going to get this funding? This funding would not come, I've been shopping around within my budget and within our different funding sources. It would not come out of the operational budget, but there's enough funding in a DUI trauma fund, which is a fund that we receive from DUI fines. So people that are convicted of driving under the influence of alcohol, the city police department has an account that has some of these funding in there. I've done the research and it seems that this will fit, that this is an accepted expenditure for that money, and it just sits there. So that's not taxpayer dollars. It's supposed to be used for projects like this or projects to help our community, and that's where the funding source would come from. I'm just asking the council if they would agree or give permission for us to move forward with that partnership and me to bring the full-on proposal with the final dollars and the agreement with Midwest Youth to the next meeting for a vote.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. So with the new live machine, would we have to hire any additional staff to help manage this new area?
No, as part of the project implementation, the company would train our police officers to do it themselves.
My next-
Oh, go ahead.
No.
Which is another step in eliminating the handoff of the juveniles from one person to the next. We would have a start to finish type situation.
Thank you. And my next question is, so you said currently, you take them over to the county sheriff's department and they get fingerprinted, and then do they stay there?
So,
Released to their parents, right? So
yes.
So with this new scenario, the city, if we move forward, would release the juveniles to their parents from the city without having to be held in a jail cell over at the sheriff's department. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So basically, in the old way, we would take them to the jail, process them, and then they would sit, if the jail wasn't busy, they'd sit in the jail lobby until a parent or guardian would come get them. When we implemented the new process where we take them to JPD, we do our paperwork, debrief, see if social service needs to be involved, contact the parents, and we don't go across the street for photos or fingerprints until there's a parent or guardian available to accept them as soon as it's finished. In a perfect situation. I mean, sometimes we have ones where we have to, be creative, but for the most part, it works. And Ann's here if you had any questions for Ann, but I think covers most of it.
I'll add too. We have, so for a long time we've been looked at as a social service agency, and we are, but we've developed diversion programming. So, our collaboration has been based on what can we put into process so that kids do have opportunity, that it's not just a release to their families. There's services in place that go, 4 months in time. So, for example, if someone is combative or being arrested, it may be because they didn't get a good night's rest, because they didn't have a mattress or clean clothes, or, and that's where we come in and specialize to be able to provide a trauma-informed service to the youth and the families and work together so that both of our needs are met and that youth goes on to being a positive contributor to our society. So.
Anyone have any additional questions for the chief or Ann?
Thank you, Ann. Appreciate it.
That's great. The third item we have is update on hiring and staffing of Jacksonville Police Department.
So this one I promise won't take as long as that one. So I just wanted to update the council. I know a couple of council meetings ago, you granted me permission to basically secure the hiring process for the police department through the end of the year, working directly with the Board of Police and Fire Commissioners because of the opportunities we may or may not be afforded with the opening of police academies and us being short 8 police officers on our staff at the police department. So I wanted to report back tonight that because of the council's generosity in letting me have the reins, so to speak, and do that, we have been able to hire 8 people in the last 2 months. 4 of those which are on the streets right now. 3 of the 4 are in field training, but they're on the streets of Jacksonville. One of them has been released on his own already and is functioning as a full-time police officer. And I have 4 that are in the training academy in Macon, Illinois right now, who will graduate in the first week of June. So because of the council allowing me to do these things and looking ahead a little bit, we were able to get all of those 8 positions, even in a hiring crisis, filled, and hopefully to have our full staff on the street on their own by the end of September of this year. So I just wanted to thank the council for allowing that.
Great.
I'm at 41 people right now, but I mean, several of them are in training, but we are at full staff right now.
That's great.
So,
Right. Great report.
thanks.
The 4th item we have is discuss ESDA surplus property. Would Phil be speaking to that?
I'll be shorter than any of the 2 previous. So we have one titled trailer that it came from, it's an old FEMA trailer. It came from Katrina, and we used it, my predecessor modified it to be a command trailer. We since have got a pretty significant upgrade thanks to Cures. So we want to get rid of that. And the other trailer is an untitled, it's a light trailer that should have been gone long ago. So it just needs to go away. And we're going to sell these at auction. We've been using Jess Spradlin out east of town. It's been very successful for us so far, so that's the means that we want to surplus it. Thank you.
Any questions for Phil? You were fast, Phil.
Thank you. Utility, Alderman Wankel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 2 items tonight. Number 1, discuss quote to seal and UV coat the water treatment plant parking lot. And Mr. Rick Herron, the superintendent of water treatment, is here.
Good evening, welcome all new board members and aldermen. I'll be on. Basically, all the materials
Number 2, discuss proposals for the Johnson Street Lift Station Electrical Improvement Project, and Jamie's on board again.
Yeah, this is the Johnson Street lift station electrical replacement project. Quick reminder there, this is located at Foreman Park, at the southwest corner on Johnson Street, just east of the old McMurray football field. Proposal received from 2 contractors. We had invited 5 local qualified contractors to submit proposals for the project. The low bid was received by Scott Burley Electric, at an amount of $247,500, which is within the BRICS budget for this item. Everything was in order in terms of the bids and qualifications, so we would recommend the city council approve the proposal by Scott Brothers Electric. And if approved, they'll be getting going pretty soon. As a reminder of this one, we have a time constraint trying to get this done in the late summer time when flows are down to the lift station. So we're hoping material delivery times and everything stay in check. So if approved, we'll be getting going pretty soon.
Thank you, Jamie. Any public comment at this time? Seeing no public comment, we will adjourn. And I believe Skip's got to get new batteries. Hang on, everybody. Batteries. Yeah. I'm gonna buy Skip a thing of batteries and keep
Just
them
keep them
right
right there, yeah. Let's see if Amy steals them.
Yeah, yeah.
Set that over on his desk too.
I mean, however you want to play I mean, I don't mind if we all get together and talk about things, but I mean, ultimately, we're going to give a couple street. I mean, that's the ask, and they're already maintaining them. It's just the Jamesons can explain it more. It's just it's a convenience for people. They only have one entrance in, and so they can utilize the whole parking lot. You're walking a quarter mile to the bridge to come in. I mean, and elderly people, you know, it's going to hurt. Now that's that's going to be their ask to Boston. That's why they went in front of Boston, because they're going to say, hey, we're the new people. We're community. We're not going to pull what Tom did. And let them work that out. But
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
I'll just get in touch with the attorney and suggest to him that,
I mean, we can do a conference call as far as
either
I'm
do a
concerned.
conference call or a meeting in person. I'm trying to, I don't know that it's necessary that legal be involved in it.
Right.
And so I don't want to make
Right.
Daniel Hamilton feel like he has to come over here for this thing, and assure him that if he doesn't want to come and it's just the hospital talking with the Jamesons and the city, I don't have to sit in either.
Sure.
Just leave it at that. And we can go from there. If he wants to do it with a conference, where it might be easiest to get a meet at the hospital or here. Dr. Boston and Jamesons and
Trevor.
Trevor.
He wants to be.
I think Trevor. Suggest we have this I'll put together something and give it to you tomorrow so you look at it, or what I'm sending out.
if I could have everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. And I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Bartlett,
Here.
Cook,
Here.
Hannett,
Here.
O'Donnell. Ruben DeSales. Here. Scott.
Here.
Speed. Here. Wankel.
Here.
Watts.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Mayor Ezra.
Here.
City Attorney Beard.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there a reading of the minutes this evening?
I'd make a motion that we approve the minutes as circulated.
Motion made by Alderman Large Oldnell, second by Alderman Scott. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Presentation of petitions,
No petitions.
and you have some communications, I believe.
I do. There are a couple of communications here. The first one is an annual. RCHS OSS Dreams is requesting a raffle permit for prizes exceeding $50,000. We have received the check, insurance, all other documentation. And I can't remember what year this is, 27, 28, something like that. Something like that. So we have everything that we need for this, so that the council's approval, we'll go ahead and approve it and get a permit sent out. Any questions? The other one is a request from Karen Walker with the Prairieland United Way. They'd like to use Community Park in conjunction with the Chamber's Health Fair on July 31st, beginning at 8 a.m. In the past, they've just done this through the police department, and I think this year that they want to make sure that they've got Community Park and make a presentation to the city and to the council and get their approval. So they've done this before with the police. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get them approved. That's all I got.
Very good. Thank you. And claims are in the hands of the aldermen, and for the aldermen that are new, the claims are basically our bills that we pay. So we do that once a month. And Skip will let you know who's signing off on those, but,
Just make a note to the new members. I do have an orientation program to kind of go over some of the reports that you'll be looking at, some of the things that you may want. If you would like, call my office and make an appointment. We'll come in. It won't take 20, 30 minutes at your leisure, or we can do it all in one if you want to before a council meeting or something like that. So it's up to you with what you want to do, but I'll have a copy of several of the reports that we do send out every month to the council members, and then some of the reports that you may want to request to bring you up to speed on a lot of different things. So whatever your pleasure is, just let me know.
and I'll work on finding the date of we pay dues into the Illinois Municipal League. The city, with a lot of municipalities across the state of Illinois, I believe 1,200 municipalities. I sit on the board, one of 30 mayors that are on the board of the Municipal League, and have been on that board for 7 or 8 years now. They're very helpful. They do have a workshop for newly elected officials. I'll get that date and pass that along to you. It's something, obviously the city, there's a fee city will take care of that. Aldermen have a budget. They have a line item and a couple line items in the budget for conferences and things like that. So I'll pass the date on and find out they offered a few different locations, Springfield, probably Southern Illinois if you can't make it there, so the Chicago area. So I will encourage you to go. It's really, it's a day conference, but it's good to listen and network and a lot of good information. So, and even if if one of the longtime aldermen would like to go to it again and get refreshed, that's certainly acceptable too. Don? No. But no, they teach a lot, so I'll get back to you. And also, you know, if, you know, Skip touched on a orientation, you know, please reach out to me. I know that our city treasurer, Ron Smoljanic, will want to kind of walk you through some things as far as what he does in finances and you know, what the treasurer, and I usually sit in on a lot of that, and kind of Ron and I, we don't like Skip. He does his own thing, so Ron and I tackle the other stuff. So sorry, Skip, but more to come. We don't want to overload you, but we certainly are here to help educate you in any way we can, and our department heads are good to work with. They will do the same thing. We'll you know, before long in the summertime, we'll bend Rick Herron's ear and, you know, give you a tour of the water plant if you haven't been through our water plant. I know there's a lot on the sewer side that we're gearing up to do as a sewer plant, so you'll be listening to a lot of that. It's not the greatest stuff to listen to, but it's very important. We dodged a bullet in 2011 as far as our sewer plant was really close of being flooded, and that would have been a whole different disaster. The water was enough for 3 weeks, but the sewer would have been, I don't even want to think about it. So, and you know, like Brian's very, you know, community development, everybody, our engineers are good to work with, both Benton, Associates Hutchison. I mean, the chiefs are more than willing. We like questions. We want you to learn. We want to be very transparent on our thinking. We may not always agree, like I said, on things, but it's good that we get things out in the air and have good discussion. And that's what the bottom line is, to get Jacksonville moving forward and continue to do that. So more to come, and I don't want to I've talked too much. So with that, it's my report. And, well, claims. We need a motion to pay claims. I'm sorry. Alderman Williams, second by Alderman Large Oldnettle. All those in favor of paying claims, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One item under the mayor's report is a resolution of sponsorship for the 2021 Downtown Summer Concert Series by Jacksonville Main Street. They didn't do it last year. We budget for this every year. We budget $5,000 of the city contribution. We also do some things for them too, as far as, you know, maintaining, keeping it looking good during the concert or before the concert, helping Terry Chumley and his assistant Mike do a good job helping if anything set up or anything. But we feel that the previous council felt that this is appropriate amount to help Main Street. They bring in a lot of folks on a Friday night, and they weren't able to do it obviously last year, and they're gearing back up for this year. So like I said, we budgeted for it. The budget is passed. We're just simply wanting to support them through a resolution, and that's what that is. Any discussion on? Need a motion? Yeah. Is there a motion by Alderman Cook, second by Alderman Scott?
Be it resolved that the city of Jacksonville does hereby agree to donate an amount not to exceed $5,000 to Jacksonville Main Street 2021 Downtown Summer Concert Series.
Any discussion? I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Hannett,
Yes.
Odenettle,
Yes.
Ruben DeSellis,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Speed, Wankel,
Yes.
Watts,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you.
Could I just remind the alderman, to the new alderman, if you push the button there to, your little green light will come on for your microphone, then everybody can hear and it comes across the recorder a little bit better. Just FYI.
Very good. City Attorney's report.
Thank you. One item, which is second reading of an ordinance amending the municipal code, chapter 3, alcoholic beverages. This is adding an additional license for El Patron authentic Mexican cuisine.
Is there a motion for second reading? Alderman Bartlett, second by Alderman Scott.
Be it ordained that the Jacksonville Municipal Code, chapter 3, alcoholic beverages be amended, adding an additional license for El Patron authentic Mexican cuisine restaurant.
Any discussion? This will be housed in the old El Rancherito but in Lincoln Square. Seeing none, I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Hannett,
Yes.
Odenenel,
Yes.
Rumancillas,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Speed,
Yes.
Wankel,
Yes.
Watts,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Just real quick, you know, when we have readings of ordinances amending the liquor ordinance, years ago, it was early on in my tenure, the council felt that the liquor licenses should be in front of the council instead of me just granting liquor licenses that I bring it to you, and it's worked out well. It takes, as liquor commissioner, it takes some of the burden off that we all have input, and I feel that's important. So when we get these requests, like if someone comes in my office and, you know, they fill out the paperwork and then that gets the ball rolling. However, if there's no licenses, we come to you and request. In the same way, when there's one that's relinquished, we then lower it through the council too. So there's certain times where it's all timing. There's certain times when someone gives up a license, say someone closes, a restaurant closes, someone comes in and there is one available before the action, and I'll let the council know when that happens, but it's good give and take as far as letting you know what's going on. And one of the things that I always get as mayor is gaming. A lot of folks over the years have wanted to open new parlors up. We have 2 existing parlors, Lucy's and Lucky's. We also have gaming in our taverns that require a pouring license. So a lot of times, you know, a lot of the taverns have gaming, and there's 2 parlors dedicated to that. One parlor a lot of people think is in the city. It's not. It's out there on East Morton by La Molina Sign. That is actually in the county. They didn't petition in. That's a long story, years and years and years ago. However, you know, folks, when I call them, I never or if people come in, I never say you can apply, everybody can apply for anything, and I'll bring it to you. If this council feels that we need to open it up, then I never discourage someone. I always say, if you want to apply, come to council, give your spiel. If they feel that it's a good thing or a negative thing, they'll let you know. And I see that coming down the pipeline. There's a lot of folks that have expressed interest. They know the word is out on Jacksonville that we've kind of limited it. And that was the old council's thinking, but we have a new council now. So there may be more discussion about that down the pipeline. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay? But if you ever have any questions on that, please let me know, or I'll try to explain things further of what past practices were. But it's a new day now, so we'll tackle that when they come. City clerk's report tonight.
These are the 4 reports that I'm talking about that you'll get to look at. If you looked at them when they were sent to you in the mail, you might not understand a lot of them, but that's one of the things that I wanted to go over with you and show you the reports. But we have the Community Development Department report, City Clerk's cash receipt report, the General Fund Budget report, and the Revenue Analysis report, all effective April 30th, 2021, and that was sent to all the aldermen. If you have any questions with regard to that, please feel free to give me a call or stop by the office and we'll go over it.
Any public comment at this time? Seeing no public comment, we'll go into the consent agenda. And consent agenda, again, is years and years and years ago. They established, well, everything was read. And then a motion, then later on, pretty basic things were established in the consent agenda. So they're grouped together, so instead of getting out of here at 10 o'clock, they get out of here at 8 o'clock. So, but you can always pull something from the consent agenda. If you feel that it needs further discussion, I'll give you that opportunity to pull something out of the consent agenda and it goes to committee. And then we'll read it in committee reports, which allows more discussion. So if you're not comfortable with something, or you think there needs to be more clarification or things, just say, I would like, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull this to committee report. And then the appropriate chairman of the committee will read that. But consent agenda items tonight, Finance, IT, and Personnel, Alderman Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 2 items tonight. The first is the resolution authorizing payment from the Capital Improvement Fund for certain improvement projects. And the second item is a resolution authorizing payments from the General Fund for services rendered.
Thank you. Public Protection, Alderman Large Oldnettle.
Thank you. We have 2 items this evening. Resolution authorizing the waiving of advertising for bids and acceptance of proposal for the SCBA fill station for the Jacksonville Fire Department. Number 2, resolution declaring an ESDA trailer as surplus and authorizing the manner of sale.
Thank you. And Utility, Alderman Wonkel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 3 items tonight. Number 1, resolution authorizing payments from the Waterworks and Sewages Project Fund for services rendered improvement projects. Number 2, resolution approving a quote to seal and UV coat the water treatment plant parking lot. Number 3, resolution approving proposal for the Johnson Street Lift Station Electrical Improvement Project. And I so move.
Is there a second under the consent agenda? Alderman Large Oldnettle. Is there any items under the consent agenda you wish to pull for further discussion? Seeing none, I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Odenettle,
Yes.
Ruben DeSellis,
Yes.
Scott,
Abstain.
Speed,
Yes.
Wankel,
Yes.
Watts,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. There's no committee reports. Is there any old business that we need to discuss at this time? No old business. Any new business? I know Aaron's been working hard on the citywide sales. You're up to 100 and over 100. Wow, that's 115. There are a lot of people travel for this, so thank you for taking that on, Aaron. So no other new business? Okay, I will need a motion to go into exec session, and that is by Alderman Wonkel, seconded by Alderman Cook, and we are going to discuss collective bargaining. So everybody but the alderman and Cheryl,